In 1775, women were not allowed to serve in combat and were only laundresses and nurses. They could only help if permission was given by their commanding officers and if they were proven helpful.
In 1782, a woman named Deborah Sampson served in the military in a combat role disguised as a man. Later, after being wounded, her gender was discovered and she was honorably discharged. This affected the future because it showed that women were stronger than men thought. In 1861, during the American Civil War, women served as administrators for hospitals. They were also nurses and cooks. Women also served as spies and, when disguised as men, served as soldiers. In 1898, during the Spanish-American War, 1,500 women served as nurses in the Army hospitals. During the last 2 years of World War I, women were allowed to join the military to serve as nurses and support staff. 33,000 women officially served and 400 died in the line of duty.
In 1948, the Congress passed the Women's Armed Services Integration Act, giving women permanent status in the military regulations and entitled to veterans' benefits.
During World War II, more than 400,000 women served in non-combat roles, such as medics, pilots, ambulance drivers, and nurses.
During the Vietnam War, women served mostly as nurses in all 5 divisions: the Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force, and Coast Guard, and all were volunteers. In 1978, women in the Navy and Marines were allowed to serve on non-combat ships as technicians, nurses, and officers.
In 1991, the Congress authorized women to fly in combat missions. In 1993, women were authorized to serve on combat ships. During the War on Terror, Leanne Hester became the first woman awarded with the Silver Star for combat.
Women are highly needed but are not appreciated. Young girls look up to women with admiration and respect. Some men think women are not supposed to be in the military, disrespect them, and make women feel bad about doing what is right.
One reason that sexual assault is so big in the military is its leadership structure, according to former servicemen and women who've been assaulted in the military. In 1943, the WFTD and the WAFS merged together to create WASP, otherwise known as Women Air Force Service Pilots.
In 2010, the WASP were awarded the Congressional Gold Medal by the U.S. Congress. Over 250 living WASP members received the honor.
You and more than 900 of your sisters have shown that you can fly wingtip to wingtip with your brothers. If ever there was a doubt in anyone's mind that women can become skillful pilots, the WASPs have dispelled that doubt. General Hap Arnold before the WASP program was disbanded in December 1944. As of September 30th, 2010, 13.5% of women served in the U.S. Army, 7.5% in the Marines, 16% in the Navy, 19.2% in the Air Force, 14.6% in the Department of Defense, and 14.6% in the Coast Guard. In 2008, women were serving in Iraq, Afghanistan, Bosnia, and many more places.
In 2016, women were officially allowed to serve in any division in the military, but still, in 2017, women are not allowed to apply for the draft.
So I joined the Air Force by going to the Air Force Academy, which is in Colorado Springs, and it is a 4-year college as well as a military training facility. It's kind of combined. And so I went through basic training when I first got there, and then I went through 4 years of school. Some of it included, marching and all that type of things, and then other stuff was just class, like English class. I still had engineering, like aeronautical engineering and all that stuff. So then I graduated from there after 4 years and became an officer in the Air Force, and I went to pilot training, and I flew several different kinds of aircraft, and it took about 2 years, and then I got my wings to become an Air Force pilot. And at first I flew the C-130, which is like a cargo aircraft. Has 4 turboprops, and we do like airdrop, where we drop stuff out of the back of our plane, like troops or supplies. And we could also land on like dirt strips and coral strips and stuff like that. So that was a fun plane to fly. And then I moved to Japan, and there I got to fly the C-130 for a little while. And then I also flew the C-12, which is a small aircraft. We mostly would fly important people around, like generals to go to meetings, or just other people that needed to get places. Sometimes we would do like medical evacuations. And then I was lucky enough to move to my hometown, which is Wichita, Kansas, and I switched to fly the KC-135, which does aerial refueling. So basically we have other aircraft that fly up close behind us, and then we refuel them in flight. And that's what I've been doing now. And during that time, I also got married, and I have 2 children. And yeah, it's been a really exciting life. Well, when I was growing up, my grandfather always had this picture that hung on the wall at his house, and it was him in his Air Force uniform getting a medal presented to him by his commander, and it was a black and white picture. And growing up, I always looked at it and just thought it was the coolest thing, because he just looked so handsome and proud, and I really respected the fact that he served in the military. And then when I was in high school, I was like thinking about what I wanted to do with my life. I went with like a science Olympiad team to visit the Air Force Academy, and they said, well, this place is really hard to get into. So I kind of took that as a challenge and applied for it. But what really made me apply for it was September 11th, which I know makes me sound old, but I was in high school whenever the terrorists hit the Twin Towers, and I remember watching them collapse, and it was just kind of like one of those things I just felt called to do, because the whole country was in shock about that. And there was flags everywhere, and it was right at the time where I was having to make a decision on what school I was going to go to. So it just seemed like something I couldn't say no to at that time in my life.
In the military, women are often raped and mistreated. In 2016, about 6,172 sexual assault events were reported to the Pentagon. That means that 5% of women and 1% of men in active duty were sexually assaulted. It was estimated that 26,000 people have reported of unwanted sexual contact, about 12,000 women and 13,000 men, and less than half involved alcohol. The military uses a video game called Loud Music, Cold Beer, Hot Girls, Game On. The players must choose whether to stop certain behaviors. If they fail, the game ends with a female soldier being raped. She reports and then leaves the service. Most men are in the hospital for things like broken bones, and most women are in the hospital for things like yeast infections. Oftentimes, the wives of the men in the military don't like the idea of women in the military, as they fear their spouses will cheat on them.
The compromise is that we need to have stricter rules about respecting women and need to keep under close watch, that men respect women and don't take advantage of them.